Hey y'all, welcome to class for the 9th week. We are just getting into the swing of things. I'm excited about the lecture today, as I am with every week. It's just really fun to be able to connect with y'all and hopefully give you just some added perspective as we recap on each week. So we are starting off with week 9, but we're going to recap some of the concepts from week 8. We're going to go over the case study. We are also going to go over some of the Ivy text, specifically with confrontation. I feel like there's just some not fun, but some added perspective that we can talk about there. And then, of course, we'll talk about a couple other resources and looking ahead till next week. So we're going to start off with our case study, and before we jump right into the case study of Anne, we're going to talk a little bit about who we are as therapists when it comes to seeing clients. And Anne's story kind of sparked this debate, if you will. But in our case study this week, it was very clear that Anne came in. The case study stated that you're a career counselor, and she came in with a presenting work issue. But there was a lot of other information around it that made it very obvious that this wasn't just about work, that there was definitely some other issues going on here. And that is very much the nature of our clients. A lot of clients, when you kind of turn the floor over to them that first session and you ask them a question, what is it that brings you here today? They're typically going to start with one issue. And they're not really going to maybe even understand that there's things going on underneath. They're going to just know that something's not quite right. Maybe it's because somebody told them. Maybe because, like our case study this week, there was a job issue. Maybe there's a relationship issue. Maybe they're actually feeling that something's not right with them anxiety-wise or depression or something like that. Clients will come in for a variety of reasons, and when you ask them what it is that they're seeking help for, oftentimes they'll give you one kind of umbrella type statement that just sheds a little bit of light into why they're there. But our job is, as a therapist or a counselor, is really not just to focus on that presenting issue, but rather to look deeper. And what I've found when I'm with my clients is that while they come in the first couple sessions stating that this up here is their presenting issue, it becomes very clear as we get into kind of the second and third session especially that overarching issue is definitely not the only issue, and in most cases it's not actually the main issue either. So I wanted to give you guys an example of something, or of a client that I've worked with where it became very apparent that there was other things going on, and my job as a therapist then is to kind of dig those things out. So there's a young woman that I work with. She's close to 30 or so. She's engaged, and she came in with her presenting issue being high anxiety and having some communication issues with her fiance. The anxiety came from her feeling like her fiance was not necessarily consistent or following through on small tasks, whether it was following up with somebody about a bill, or completing a housework task, or getting something when he's out at the store for her. And she was becoming very, very anxious when things like this would happen, to the point where it was definitely disproportionate. Her anxiety was disproportionate to the task that she was anxious about, and her fiance absolutely noticed this. And he's very encouraging of her and very much appreciates her, but very much encouraged her to seek help, as he was very aware that there was something else going on, because the amount of anxiety that she was describing for getting to buy apples at the grocery store was not necessarily proportionate. So she came in, her presenting issue, of course, is anxiety, feeling like maybe she's nagging her fiance, maybe there's some relationship issues, those sorts of things. And as we started to dig deeper and deeper, what became very apparent very quickly is that she has been in some very, very abusive relationships in the past, in which cheating and manipulating, spiritual abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse have all been very, very present. One of the relationships that she was in was one where her her partner was cheating on her, got somebody else pregnant, and really was leading her to believe that she was the one who was crazy, that this was normal in a relationship. And so she's coming from this background of having a very warped view of what a healthy relationship is. And even though her fiance now is a very healthy man and it is a healthy relationship, all of a sudden she's starting to see these tendencies come out in the littlest moments because she's never ever had an opportunity to process through what that relationship did to her, the anxiety that it caused. And so now, in moments of inconsistency that are very, very minor, like forgetting to pick up apples at the store, she feels that same anxiety and panic and fear as she did when she was wondering if her ex-fiance was cheating on her. So feelings are the same, but the situation is completely different. Her presenting issue was anxiety and feeling like she was nagging her fiance, whereas really what the issue beneath is she's got some major wounds that she's carrying from past relationships that she needs to heal from before she can actually kind of calm down some of that anxiety in her current relationship. So you see that a lot of times clients come in with that overarching issue, but oftentimes we as therapists have to dig a little bit. It becomes very, very apparent what the issue actually is, and it's not necessarily what the client suggested that they came in for. So when we look at our client, Anne, she's clearly dealing with issues at work. That's very apparent from the case study. But what is so interesting, when I read this case study and then I read the questions for follow-up that y'all would be answering on the group discussion board, my approach or my take from it as far as her presenting issue was far different than the issue that many of y'all listed as being her work issues. Because as I read her story, the first thought that actually came to mind is, why is everybody else more important than Anne? Why does everybody else's opinions, wishes, dreams, and stances take more importance than Anne's own, issues and her own opinions and her own thoughts? It became very clear to me that she valued what other people thought, whether it was her bosses, her coworkers, her parents, her partner, and even society, that she was very concerned about that rather than really kind of having that self-reflective moment of, what do I want? Obviously there's some cultural issues that play into this. She's from a different minority in terms of ethnicity. She is of an alternative lifestyle. Those two things combined, of course, add some stressors in the situation. But when we look at just the work issue, I think what's so important is recognizing that there was a lot of other things that really seemed to fuel and intensify this work issue that had actually nothing to do with the work issue. It was coming out there, but it wasn't actually the work issue that was the real issue. And that really is just a result of digging a little bit deeper, of looking at the whole situation and even just the few facts that were given and going, there's something else going on here. And that's why I asked you all to consider a different perspective this week. While I know that the text stated, or the case study stated, that you're a career counselor, one thing that's really important to note is that judging by the information that we are given, knowing that there's a lot of other issues going on, this is far beyond the realm of what a career counselor would do. And in actuality, a career counselor is going to be somebody who's going to work with you to do some personality testing, strengths finders, interest surveys, those sorts of things, and really help you find a career that fits rather than solving work issues and the issues underneath work. And so there's definitely a differentiation. I don't know if that was a typo in the case study or that you were supposed to catch that. I'm not sure. But I will say what was very clear to me is this was not a career counseling situation, which a couple of y'all pointed out in your answers. This is definitely more of a therapeutic, a marriage and family therapist or professional counselor would be a better fit for Anne in this case. So if you were a career counselor, you really would only focus on finding Anne a career that fit her. And really, it would go about there. It would be what fits her skill set, what fits her personality, what does she like to do, and it would not go beyond that. It would not touch family. It would not touch anything. But knowing all the information that we have, it's very clear that this does go beyond career counseling, that there are some different issues here. And so that's why I asked y'all to take that alternative approach and look at it really from a therapeutic standpoint. So we're going to pause the video here, and we'll move on after this.